Hello everyone, welcome to the first episode of a new type of video I'm going to be doing, where I review games that I like and tell you why you should play them. These videos will be coming out on Fridays, since they are gaming videos. That being said, these episodes may be coming out in place of Let's Play episodes sometimes, but that shouldn't happen too often. Speaking of Let's Plays, I do plan on Let's Playing some of the games that are going to be covered in this series, but definitely not all of them. All that being said, let's dive into our first episode on the giant squid game, ABZÜ, which came out in 2016. Before we start though, just a few disclaimers. Firstly, ABZÜ is rated E for everyone by the ESRB, with mild fantasy violence. Secondly, this is a big spoiler warning. If you don't want to be spoiled about anything regarding this absolutely beautiful game, you should add this video to your watch later list and head off now. ABZÜ is one of those games that is simultaneously complex and very simple, and that can be seen in many aspects of the game's design. From the art style, to the AI, to the story. And yes, this game does have a story, but we'll get into that later. And there will be another spoiler warning there. Let's start with the gameplay. So you play as the diver, this super cute and simplistic character who, as you might guess, is a diver. She can swim on the surface of the water, but what you'll really want to do is be diving. I mean, it is in the character's name, after all. Underwater, you get a lot more options for traversal. The diver's swimming is graceful and elegant, like she's dancing with the sea life around her, even dancing with the ocean itself. And, side note, yes, the diver is confirmed by the developers to use she/her pronouns. So that is what I'll be using for her. On the note of things that the developers have said, when you look at her movements, the first thing you'll notice is how unrealistic and graceful and smooth they are. Creative director Matt Nava, in the creative trailer for ABZÜ, said, "ABZÜ isn't really a scuba simulator. Instead, we wanted to invoke the dream of scuba diving. The diver is graceful. Her movement is like a fluid ballet under the waves. By casting aside the trappings of scuba, ABZÜ gets at the real heart of diving, experiencing the majesty of the ocean and the magic of discovering a surreal new world." If you want to see that full trailer, I'll link it up in the card now and down in the description as well. For any of us who have been scuba diving, myself included, it's easy to see what Nava means when he says this. As with real scuba, you have many limitations such as oxygen tanks and decompression, which, if not utilized properly, can lead to severe injury and oftentimes death. By removing these elements, ABZÜ is allowed to fully immerse the player in this underwater world, uninterrupted and without risk, creating a very peaceful experience. And believe me, it is a very peaceful experience. Sometimes when I need to relax, I'll just turn on ABZÜ and float around aimlessly, taking in the scenery and the music. Another side note, the soundtrack for this game is great. It is available on Steam if that's where you get ABZÜ, so I would highly recommend getting that along with the game. Moving on with the controls. You can give yourself a boost of speed, and if you tap the button 3 times in a row with good timing, you will go further and faster with that boost. Though there is a bit of cooldown with the boost, so keep that in mind. Also, if you hit the surface of the water while boosting, you'll do a breach out of the water. The faster you're going, the higher your jump. And sometimes the fish and other sea critters around you will follow you up into the air. Speaking of those sea critters, you can ride them! If they're big enough, that is. And it's so much fun. I mentioned that I've done diving before, and most times you dive, especially out in the wild, you'll typically be advised not to interact with the sea life, because that's how you get bit, and that's how you get hurt, is by interacting with the wildlife. There's actually this great little song that I've heard when teaching this principle. Allow me to sing it for you. You stick your hand in a crack, and you don't get it back. That's how you know it's amore. Ah, God, I'm a sucker for those bad puns. So, when riding the animals, you can kinda steer where they're going, but they will typically go based on their own AI. Some species won't go too close to the surface. If they're hungry, they'll probably prioritize finding food. Things like that. There's also a button you can press to make them do a flip, which you can also do when you're not riding fish. That makes your player do a little somersault. The final control I'm going to go over with is interaction. You can interact with things if they have an orange triangle above them, and that triangle will turn blue once you press the button. This is used in all sorts of things, from puzzle solving, activating small robots that you find, picking up collectibles, and much more. Heck, even if you don't see an orange triangle, try interacting with the different sea life. You might be surprised to see how they respond. Speaking of the sea life, do you want to just watch some of the animals without having to manually follow them or ride them? Well, then this game's meditation mechanic is for you. Littered throughout the levels are these shark statues that you can sit on top of and meditate. When you are meditating, your camera will focus on one fish and give you its name in the bottom corner. If you want to switch between fish, just use the control stick and your camera will fly over to another fish. Now, the camera switching in this mode can be really wonky, so bear that in mind, but it's not unbearable. But what if you want to meditate without having to swim all the way through the level again? No worries. Once you find the statue, you will be able to access it at any time you want through the game's main menu. So feel free to watch all those fishies as long as you want, which may take a while because there are over 100 unique species in ABZû. Each one uniquely programmed to behave like the real-world animal would in the wild. And as a diver myself, I can say that they got the AI in this game down pat. Along those lines of wildlife, there are these little hidden pools that you can interact with to release more species back into the wild. Sadly, I couldn't get any footage from my game doing this since I had already released all of them. So this bit of footage is from the IGN review of this game, link up in the card now and down in the description. That's all I can cover now for gameplay stuff before diving into the story. Unintended pun there, but we'll carry on. So, I think you know what's coming next. This is your last spoiler warning for the story of ABZû before we jump in. So, if you want to play the game yourself first, which you definitely should play this game, add this video to your watch laters and come back once you've played it. But, if you don't care about spoilers for this very abstract story, then keep watching. The story of ABZû is one that begins before you even turn the game on, before you even buy the game. It begins, as many stories often do, with a title. According to the game's developers, the game's title comes from two ancient words, ab, which comes from ocean, and zoo, meaning to know or deep. And they intended it to be interpreted together as Ocean of Wisdom. Keep that in mind as we move forward. As for the playable story, it is split up into 7 chapters, each with their own very unique and beautifully crafted ocean biome. Also, side note, something that I came across after the script was written, I was doing some research for the book I'm writing, which is about different world mythologies, and apparently ABZÜ is also the name of a Sumerian freshwater deity, a very important one at that, and is said to be the father of all the other gods. So I found that very interesting, and I'm not sure if the developers knew about that beforehand or not, but it's something that I thought should be noted. So, you turn on the game, and you select New Game, and we begin with a beautiful descent from the bright surface of the ocean into the deep, murky depths. Until slowly descending into a bright pink portal of some sorts. We then get a hard cut to our main playable character, the diver, limply floating on the surface of the water. To be precise, she is doing a dead man's float, which is a type of survival floating that keeps you floating on the water's surface with minimal amounts of effort. As our camera zooms in, the diver slowly awakens, and we are given full control of the diver. We start in a wide open area that helps us get used to the controls and teach us about some of the game's mechanics, having you ride a giant Goliath grouper into the next section of the map. We end up encountering small robots that kind of look like us, the diver, and when we free them, they act very friendly towards us, even helping us progress into new areas. After a while, we catch a glimpse of a great white shark and follow it, eventually making our way to a dark and dreary area where nothing seems to be alive anymore. In the center of this area, we enter a small well of glowing blue light-imbued water, and we find ourselves in a strange, otherworldly temple-like area. Another side note, this area is probably the most chill in the entire game. It's really pretty. I've spent hours in here just chilling and relaxing. It's absolutely gorgeous. The diver then approaches a small structure and produces the same glowing blue water out of her body that we saw before. This, in turn, brings life back to the once desolate area we were swimming in earlier. After playing more with the sea life, we continue on, passing through these ancient ruins that seem to depict a race similar to the divers. After emerging from the other end of the ruins, the great white shark from earlier attacks and destroys one of our little robot buddies before disappearing. We then pass through a large triangular gate with a glowing red core which seems to be watching us. The first few levels are very similar to this concept. Swim through the map section by section, waking up more of the little robots along the way, find the dead and desolate area, revive the sea life, continue on to the next area, passing through some ancient ruins with more wall murals that are very cryptically start to chip away at the veil, hiding the story from us. There are also these nautilus shells sprinkled throughout the levels, and your collection progress is shown in these murals, but we'll get to that later. The third level, however, is where things start to take a shift. The ruins of this ancient civilization are actually sprinkled throughout the level itself. Chapter 3's level design is definitely unique. I personally don't like the bright orange color, but it actually makes this level look really pretty and ancient. Like, it's evoking the color of the rust that's overgrown all the ancient statues and machinery. After pulling some cranks, I think those are cranks at least, we managed to open the gate and move forward, and we once again see this bright blue glowing water being used. However, this is the first time we've seen it being used by this ancient civilization. After restoring this chapter's dead zone, we enter what is the most extensive set of ruins we've come across so far. And the murals are very interesting, to say the least. These murals are indeed where we learn most of the diver's backstory, and she's learning it too alongside with us. It's honestly quite chilling swimming through these ruins. Even though I've done it countless times, what's especially chilling is when we see the diver herself on the walls. Now, as I stated before, ABZÜ's story is very complex yet simple, and it's depicted in a very abstract way, to the point that it's very hard for anyone to definitively say what everything means for certain. If I were to delve into super detailed description, this would quickly become a theory video, but I will be giving my own interpretation / theory of the story based on in-game facts and information found on the ABZÜ wiki, linked down to that in the description as well, at the end of the story section of this video. So let's move on. It is also in these ruins that we see depictions of the great white shark as some kind of deity or protector of the oceans. So the question remains, what does that make us? We were doing good things like returning life to the ocean and freeing trapped animals, but we also seem to be of the same origin as these strange, robotic, alien-like things. They seem friendly enough, the little drones that we collect, but if the guardian of the ocean was attacking them... See, this is how the game gets you thinking about its story, and it's done entirely through visual and environmental storytelling. No dialogue or readable text at all. It's kind of crazy and amazing. Chapter 4 opens with one of the most beautiful yet haunting sequences in the entire game. You start out swimming alongside a few pods of whales, blue whales and humpback whales to be exact. They're friendly and playful, even endearing towards the diver as they accompany her deeper into the ocean. However, as anyone who's seen Finding Nemo will tell you, if you just keep swimming down, you get to the abyss. The abyss of the ocean is something that is able to instill a combination of fear and curiosity into almost anyone. It plays on our natural fears of the dark and the unknown, combined with our sense of wonder and mystery of what can be discovered. And most anyone will agree that the further down you go, the weirder it gets. This is when things start to get weird for the diver as well. Throughout the ocean, there are these floating mines, which are the first things in the game that will break the peaceful atmosphere and actually harm her directly. Don't worry, there isn't a health bar or anything, so you can't get a game over, but it's annoying because they really do send you flying and make a really loud noise. Overall, it's jarring and terrifying and very unnatural. These mines are also the same triangular shape as those giant gates and the insignia on the back of the diver's suit. The diver must carefully maneuver her way through the minefield and shut down the mines before opening a massive mechanical doorway, which these doors are much more industrial than the ones we've seen before in the ruins. She eventually makes it to the next area that she restores life to, and continues on. However, there are no ruins this time. Only a small opening that leads to a wide open, desolate, and empty area littered with mines, and in the center, an absolutely massive inverted pyramid. According to the wiki, this is called the Great Harvester, and when I said it was massive, I meant massive. Just look at the footage of the diver swimming right next to it. Now, I wasn't able to find a canonical height of the diver, but someone can probably figure it out by comparing her to some of the sea life in the game, and I'm not that good at math to do that. And just based on that, this thing is far, far bigger than anything else we've ever seen so far. Bigger than the whales, bigger than the giant squids. It makes them all look like ants. After we spot the great white shark heading into the harvester, we follow suit and enter what is definitely the creepiest and most disturbing level of the game. Even when compared to the Abyss, this place gives me the chills every time I swim through it. There's no sign of natural life anywhere. Everything is covered in machinery. Even the little cleaner fish turn out to be robots upon closer inspection. It is here that we see our little robot buddies from the first few chapters being made, alongside the mines. And then we get the most chilling information we've seen in the game thus far. For effect, I'll let you watch the clip before I say anything further. This is where we learn the truth. Our diver, she's a robot, created presumably by the ancient civilization, or maybe even by the harvester itself, for the purpose of aiding the harvester of, again, this is getting into speculation territory, And I said I'd save that for the end of this story section, so put a pin in that. Let's continue on. Now, you can watch through these holograms multiple times, as many times as you want, which I often find myself doing in any given playthrough in hopes of trying to understand the story better, which is difficult to say the least. After that, you end up in a room filled to the brim with mines. It is impossible to get through this room without setting off at least a few, so you know that whatever lies on the other end must be important. Which it is. The central core of the Great Harvester, which appears to be alive, or at least have some kind of artificial intelligence or sentience. The great white shark attacks it, and it retaliates by sending out a massive shockwave that sends both the shark and the diver slowly sinking down, as the core slowly follows us with its glowing orange gaze. When the diver awakens, most of her outer body is destroyed, leaving her mechanical skeleton and bright orange core exposed for all to see. After swimming through some debris, we find our now ally, Great White Shark, severely injured, and they sadly pass away. Putting our grief aside, we have no choice but to push forward, looking for answers on how to destroy the Great Harvester to save the ocean for good. We soon end up in what appears to be another ancient temple, but upon our diver taking her first steps onto dry land in the entire game, we discover that it is an entire, extremely massive ancient city with dinosaurs! Seriously, look at how freaking awesome this is! There's even a T-Rex skeleton laying around. You can ride the dinosaurs! This level is breathtaking. Not only is it absolutely gorgeous, there are also, you heard me right, dinosaurs! And you actually get to step out of the water and take in your surroundings. Remember how I said there were hundreds of unique species in the game? That includes the many frogs, turtles, birds, and more that can be found outside of the water. After traversing through the ruins, we come to the last level, in which we unlock our true power, and with the revived Great White Shark, destroy the Harvesters, and even the Great Harvester, restoring life and peace to the oceans. Roll credits. Whoo boy, what a doozy, right? So, as I said before, it is really an abstract story that you gotta piece together yourself. So I did promise my personal theory on the story, so I'll make this quick. So this is all based on my own playthroughs of the game with stuff that I was able to piece together from the ABZÜ wiki. Long ago, there was an ancient civilization, most likely extraterrestrial in origin, that was highly advanced in their technologies. They used their technology to gather the power of the ocean, which is that glowing blue water that we see all throughout the game. During this time, they lived in harmony with the sea, being guided by the different guardians of the ocean. Eventually, they became advanced enough to automate the harvesting process and created the Great Harvester, along with the many smaller harvesters, as well as landmines and drones. However, as the harvester, harvested the power of the ocean, it became more powerful and even sentient. The civilization, fearing the power of the harvester, but being unable to destroy it, decided instead to create the diver. They fashioned her in their image, or perhaps in the image of a hero sacred to their people, and gave her the harvesting abilities, as well as something even more special and more important: the ability to choose her own path, to learn and grow beyond her programming, much like the harvester, but this time, at least they hoped, as a force of good. After the harvester learned about the diver's true purpose, it became enraged and turned on its creators, destroying the ancient civilization and forcing the survivors to flee the planet. The diver was set adrift in the ocean, yet to be activated. It would be thousands and thousands of years later before she would eventually activate, setting the events of the game into motion. In order to try and keep her on its side, the harvester set out drones to befriend and accompany her on her journey. But all of this is just a theory. Again! And that, guys, gals, non-binary pals, concludes the story section for this video. Now for my final thoughts as a whole. ABZÜ is definitely an amazing game and proves that big things can come in little packages. It sets the bar high for environmental storytelling and even higher for relaxing gameplay. Well, maybe not if you have a fear of the ocean. Well, I definitely feel like it's the perfect game to have as the first video in this series. I love this game to the point that it's the first game on Steam that I've gotten 100% achievements on. I found every meditation statue, freed all the trapped sea life, and I collected all the Nautilus shells. By the way, finding all the Nautilus shells gives you this special upgrade to your diving suit that lets you swim a lot faster, boost a lot further, and reduces the cooldown for your boost. It's a nice, short, fun, and relaxing game that almost anyone can pick up easily and get lost in for hours. I'm not going to be giving any ratings for the games in this series, because I only really intend on doing games that I actually enjoy, because I don't hate myself enough to collect hours of footage and write a whole script for a game that I don't enjoy. Next, I want to give a huge shout out and a big thank you to my friend Ino-chan on Tumblr, link in the description, for this absolutely amazing artwork of Moxie for the thumbnail. Look at it! She's so cute! I love it! Oh, my friend was kind enough to do it for me for free since I'm broke and I don't have an income because of the quarantine. But she does have her commissions open, so make sure and check her out. So, guys, gals, non-binary pals, I hope you enjoyed this video. And if you did, give this video a like. Give it a dislike if you didn't. And either way, leave a comment saying what else you'd like to see from me in the future. See you all next time.